As this comes up here, I was telling a fellow teacher that, it's so good to talk about in worship when Anson mentioned the open-handed thing, because in a lot of the other chapels I've had, I could hardly sleep the night before. It's always, everything is normal. But part of it was definitely my own sinful nature of like, I got to tinker, make it great, But for some reason, just maybe I spent enough time praying. But today, I'm just really excited to go through this. And so I have a couple questions for you. I have a couple things to show you throughout history. Some big things to talk about. Moments of disaster. Okay. You have the tree of the knowledge of good and evil that we have all suffered from because of sin. We have the dinosaurs were killed by all those little tiny comets, or a big one. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. Ask Baldwin or Masters. We have Mount Vesuvius, the great volcano that erupted near Pompeii. Of course, we have the great Thanos snap we're still dealing with. We have the Black Plague taking out millions. We have the unfinished and lost works of Leonardo da Vinci. And perhaps the greatest tragedy of all, I went from that to that. So, cute little kid to basically becoming an angry dad. So, none of those compare, however, to the day that we lost TikTok. So, I want to ask if maybe we have a spare handheld mic or something. I want to ask, where were you on the day when TikTok went down? I have time for a couple of you to share. If I hand the mic to you, please don't start the story by saying, when I was born, I was dreaming of... Don't start that, okay? Give me like 60 seconds, all right? Karis.
So it was Saturday night, and I
it was Saturday night.
I got a notification. I got a notification on my phone that said it was going to be banned within 24 hours. And the next day I had a soccer game, and it was banned during my soccer game. So after, me and my friends, we went crazy after our game when it got banned. So
Rice?
Sorry.
I was baking with my sister.
Whoa, hold on. It's okay, Bryce. You can talk about your feelings here, right?
At the time.
So you're really sad is what you're saying? That's what he said, folks. He didn't say anything else. Let's see. Mrs. Masters. Good teacher on this.
I was scrolling. I was flipping, putting my daughter down, watching an amazing pediatric psychologist, and all of a sudden, bam, in the app. It was like, shut down. In the app. I was scrolling. I was there, sir.
Hey. All right. Couple more. All right, you two, and then that's it.
So basically, TikTok owns CapCut, so CapCut got banned too. And so me and Sarah were crashing out because I was really scared that all my stuff would go away on CapCut. And it was really sad.
All the school projects.
I was in Vegas with my dad and my brothers, and then I was scrolling before bed, and it turned off, and I got really sad because I just got TikTok in January, New Year's, and then the difference between that and YouTube Shorts, and I was really sad that I would have to go back to YouTube Shorts, and it was really depressing.
Interesting that you mentioned that. So, gotta move on. Sorry. We'll talk to you. Come share your... We'll have an after school, morning session, okay? So, great tragedy. And I joke around about this because I want to use it as a way of talking about the state of things. I want to talk about where we are now. It'll be there eventually. Because I've done an experiment. I had a feeling that what I was seeing at school was being shaped by entertainment. And so my experiment was this, okay? I took, you don't have to go to the next slide yet. You can stay right there. I took TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts, and I watched all three. Well, hold on. Don't applaud too early. That's not the funny part anymore. I took all three, and I was like, okay, I'm going to measure 4 different categories on these shorts on each platform. And the 4 categories were positive, right? Something that was adding back to your life. Okay. Didn't think you're getting so much reaction out of this. Negative, right? Something that was portraying some sort of sin or whatever. Neutral, where was basically just like the hydraulic press videos where it's like, it's neither this or that. And question mark, right? Watching Skivity Toilet, I don't know what that category this is in. Just put it in the question mark. So, here are the results of my experiment. So, you may not be able to see this, but in every single platform, the first thing, well, hold on. The first thing that I got to in terms of the negative category first was negative in all 3. YouTube did slightly better than the rest, but that was all right. So I'm happy that you're happy, but I'm bringing this up for a point, and this has to be serious because the overwhelming majority of the content, as you can see, was negative, which means you're being entertained by what is largely the following, and taken from my notes. It was serious, like ugly court cases. It was inappropriate romance. It was fighting, verbal fighting, cursing, racism, dehumanizing behavior, and all things strife. And I'm bringing this up because it's the stuff that we're being raised in and being entertained by. You're being taught and shaped that content is what it means to be entertaining. In other words, what we're entertained by shapes the way that you and I entertain others. It teaches us, okay, if you want to get attention, if you want to get, sort of publicity socially, this is what you need to do. And that's a problem. It may be hard to hear, in talking about this morning, but I need to hold a mirror up so that we can apply the gospel to it and talk about hope. But I need to hold a mirror up to us in sharing how we've seen this manifest here at our school. Because what I'm here to talk about today is gossip as a topic of this month. If I've had experiences with students who have openly gossiped about me right outside my door, then I do fear the things that you say to one another by the lockers. It breaks my heart to see how quickly word spreads in and out of the classroom. If someone's called, we get a phone call, and if someone's called down to the office, one of my big things about teaching and classroom management is to quell and put out sort of the rumors and the whispers of like, hey, what'd you get in trouble for? Did you, whatever. It breaks our heart to see that because there are friendships that have been built on a mutual love for the art of being rude rather than similar interests and passions. Some students are not only anxious about coming back to school or coming to school at all, but they're nervous about the simple act of getting a book from their locker. So that's the hard part. And with these hard truths said, I'm not here today to wag a finger at you or take from you. I'm not here to tell you to do less. I want to point to the one who invites you to more. There's more. I'm inviting you here today. So let's turn to the words of Christ, because today's message is entitled Words of Life. Would you pray with me? Jesus, thank you for these young people, and we as teachers love the energy and the creativity that they bring to the table. In large part, perhaps they're bringing the content and the things in their mind, that they're filtering it through you. But I pray, Father, that you'd help us today to find words of life so much more valuable, so much more beautiful than our own assessment of how to speak to each other and to learn from you today. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. So, is social media the root? Is that what I'm going to really talk about today? Is that like my main point? No, it is a factor. But there are other more powerful factors at play. And so the question I want you to think about to yourself is, what is the most powerful thing about you? Okay? What is the most powerful thing about you? Some of you might say, Spirit of God in you. It might give that Christian answer. Some of you might say, my ability to choose. Some of you might say, the gains I've been having at the gym. Daniel keeps talking about creatine. Others of you might say, I come from a wealthy family that's pretty powerful. I'm here today to talk about what James 3 talks about, which is the tongue. Nothing about you will determine the outcome of your life and has more power than your words. And so James 3, I could come up with, funny little analogies as I do, but James 3 nails the analogies right out the gate with giving us 3 to talk about. So raise your hand if you own a horse. Raise your hand if you own a horse. Okay? As I'm sure all of the horse people would say, the first analogy is the fact that the horse has a bit in its mouth. It's like this big. You put it in the mouth, and it controls the rest of the animal. So something small controls something really, really big. In the middle picture, we have a large shipping container, and the thing, does this have a laser? Ooh, it does. This thing right here is called a rudder. And if you turn it just a few degrees in your trip, you won't make it to, Europe. You'll miss it by a mile and you hit, South Africa, right? It is something small that controls something big. And the same thing is true with the little sparks and embers around the edge of the third photo that are the cause of such big fires. It starts very small. So notice the small controls the big, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It could be good or bad. You can lead a horse to win the Kentucky Derby, or if you do it wrong, a horse will buck you off. You can man a huge cargo rig carrying life-saving materials to, plenty of different countries, or you can be driving the Titanic. You can use a flint to keep yourself alive in the wilderness. Bear Grylls. Well, I'm Bear Grylls. Or you can be the fool that causes great destruction because you left a campfire unsmothered. It's the use of the small that determines the outcome of the big. Proverbs says, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits. Right? What that means is, in your tongue is the 2 choices, death or life, and you have to choose. That's what it means by saying, and those who love it will eat its fruits. You're going to have to come to terms with the consequences of your tongue, and it's up to us to choose. And so, Proverbs, of course, is a book that warns people against this idea of pride. And I want to connect these 2 concepts to you this morning. I know 8th graders are a big proponent of juxtaposition, right? Putting 2 concepts or words next to each other and talking about the connection. Let's do that with gossip and pride, because they're actually a lot more connected than you might think. And there are 2 types of pride, although some of us might be used to thinking in terms of pride of like, I'm him, right? But there's 2 types, and let me talk about each. So first, aggressive pride. Aggressive pride always seeks to prove to others how great you are. And let me back up by kind of giving a definition of pride. I forgot to do that. Because pride in the beginning, in first and foremost, is self-worship. Pride is self-worship. And so the most obvious form of that is aggressive pride, where you think you are actively great, you are great, and so at the end of the day, it's your job to actively go out and sort of campaign for yourself. So how does this connect to gossip? This person is the one who actively works on finding embarrassing things out about people and starts or continues rumors. Why? Because then they get to say something like, hey, look over here at this shocking and embarrassing thing about so-and-so. Man, is it good to be a part of the normal circle of what's good and normal. Not like that person over there. We give ourselves life. That's a way of giving ourselves life by causing others social death. And so passive pride is similar, but kind of inverse in the sense that passive pride is the person who's mourning. They're in grief over the fact that they know at some point they are really great. If only people could see, if only I could realize my potential. I'm in mourning for, I should be so great. And so this person, when it comes to gossip, will fabricate nonsense or drama out of nothing just to be relevant. It doesn't matter if it's true or helpful, this person thinks, so long as they see what I want them to see. I'm new at my job, or I've got something to prove, and I don't want people to see how much of a loser I think I am. So I'm going to say whatever I need to say just to be able to fit in. So this is not a popular or not popular issue. Both can represent themselves in being prideful. And at the end of the day, both have decided that they know more about the way that they work over and above the Lord who made us. And so this is what Ephesians 4 gets at with this word corrupting that I want to focus on. It says, let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. When we hear the word corruption, you might think, some of you nerds might think of the corrupted file, and that is pretty accurate, but others of you might think, it's just something gross. That's what it means to be corrupted. But corrupted actually means, if I may be your English teacher for a second, that it was something that was once good, now being used in a way that doesn't match its original design. It's corrupted from its original purpose. And that's what this verse is talking about. The way that we do that in pride is a corruption from how we were originally made. So, what then is our design? We were made to bring about life. And so now I want to talk about us building a culture of life as we start in Genesis. We all know Genesis 1 and 2, and I love that they go over it in 8th grade. And so I want to talk about the created and the created. In that story, we read in Genesis 2:19 this: He brought them to the man to see what he could name them. So God brought animals to Adam so that Adam would name them. And whatever the man called each living creature, that was its name. So God just got done making all of creation, and he takes a break and he's back into work and stuff. And God's like, I know I have a job for Adam, right? So is it something where God needs to take a break and he's like, I can't really handle this. I need the human's help. Does he need our help in this situation? No. That's not why he does this. This verse is here to teach us that what it means to be made in his image is when we speak, there is power to build and make good. That's what our voices are for. When we speak, we, like him, should be able to call the words and the effects good, just like God made all of the things in Genesis 1. He makes something, he speaks it out into existence, and he calls it good. We should be able to do the same. Our words are for adding value to the people and places we go, whoever and wherever they may be. So in light of this, I want to give you some examples of what that looks like to be like the little icons of God that we are. Because the good news is this is already happening in our school, and I want to take a moment to acknowledge the power of God that is being accessed and spread among yourselves. So let's hear a couple highlights of the ways that this is happening. Shout out first to the 7th grade girls. Girls across the board. Can we give them a round of applause? Okay, go fast. And here's why. Boys, we'll get to you in a second. Is this, okay? Girls, you guys are a huge example of how to honor someone for a birthday. No one does it better. Lockers are decorated, right? Kylie here has a big old poster, right? Yeah, see? And I don't know if you can see that, right? I don't want to zoom in to, be on her business or whatever, but all these different things are just encouragements and little love letters or whatever for Kylie. On the right, give it up for boys in the sports. That's what I want to highlight today, boys in the sports, right? I went to go see the 7th grade boys in their game. And I saw them communicate like they got out of their ego, they got out of their head to come together and accomplish a mission, accomplish a task, and they destroyed the team that they were playing that day. They did. And they were using positive language to speak out, pass the ball, do this. I don't play sports, so I don't know what I'm supposed to say here. But, they said a lot of things that were, successful. So it may seem small, but when I'm talking about speaking words of life, that's what I mean. What I mean is there's always opportunities, and I know because I'm actually funny. I have the gift to be able to hear somebody say, oh, I just got braces the other day, and I could make a joke about that if I wanted to make myself feel better. Or the word of life option, which is to say, hey, how long have you had those braces? Didn't you just get those? Instead of making fun of them for my own social credit, I put myself aside and I take a moment to notice, hey, I see you. And your experience of having braces or whatever it may be is real and legitimate, right? It doesn't have to be like, fake and all this fancy stuff. You're just noticing people and bringing them back to life. So, not to mention the fact that, Mr. Close just sent us an email for the DC trip. And I just want to say something to my 8th graders real fast. Because I can remember very clearly last year, and maybe you guys remember this too, writing poetry when I showed you the 9/11 museum at that part in our year. And so it was to my great pleasure that all of your teachers on the DC trip were saying, I couldn't believe how into and how well they handled the 9/11 experience. And I was like, oh man, in the same way that they honored God through their poetry and through their writing about that in 7th grade, they continued on the legacy of speaking words of life while they were there in person. And that makes me just such a proud teacher. And so, 2 paths are before you today. Words of life, words of death. But dear students, I don't want to end here. I don't want to just say, hey, go out and do better today, because that would be a mistake. Doing this stuff on our own and not motivated by something greater is the mistake of trotting along the path of life. And I know, and all the teachers know here, that you will eventually on your own strength just wander right back into a path of death because you'll be starving. So this year, my 7th graders looked at Isaiah 55, where the Lord says through Isaiah, and what I want to say to you today through what the gospel says, come everyone who thirsts, come to the waters, and he who has no money, come buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without honey, or without money, without price. Why do you spend your money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that which does not satisfy? Listen diligently to me, and eat what is good, and delight yourselves in rich food. Incline your ear and come to me. Hear that your soul may live. And my 7th graders all asked, what is this food? We have true life in what God provides us. And this food that the passage speaks of is Jesus, because he says of himself in the Gospels, I am the bread of life. I am the living water that never leaves you thirsty. Come to me, Jesus says, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Jesus satisfies the heart that is trying to satisfy itself through gossip. So don't just run to being nice, run to Jesus, and he will satisfy. But why? Why is he satisfying? This is the message of the gospel. If you hear me say anything, I think this is it. No one knows the depths of your soul and all the details of your life like the triune God. No one sees and understands that you've been harassed, that you've been made fun of, you've been left out of parties, you've been mistreated, your parents' relationship is rough, all those who are supposed to take care of you, whatever you've been through. No one sees all the little details of those moments like him. He knows every dark, every selfish, and every wicked corner of our hearts, and my heart included, and how corrupted we are from our original design. And yet, the gospel good news is no one delights to think of you and talk to you more than Jesus. No one likes you He likes you more than your best friend likes you, and he likes your company more than them, and loves you more than your family ever has or ever will. No one is a bigger fan of your soul. Though we all have earned nothing but scorn from God, he has set the full weight of his love on you to the point of proving it through death. When that message hits, yeah, things are going to start coming alive when you talk. And it's obvious. We know those people around school that are like that. We can point them out because they're just loving. And so, to the Christian, I want to encourage you today that your words are kind of like this. Well, you don't drive yet, but it's this check engine light. It's this LED that comes on when the battery is low to indicate whether you need to spend more time immersing yourself in this message and with this people. Pay attention to your words because they tell you what's going on in your heart. Do things, please, and I beg and encourage you to immerse yourself in the people of God, to surround yourself with fellow Christians who speak life into your life. Having someone, and you guys know this, having someone that's like trustworthy to give you feedback on whether or not you did something right, that's so valuable. Hang on to that and find it within the people of God. And know that though you speak words of life, I want to encourage the Christian because sometimes we want to help and we want to speak words of life, but they may not always or ever be received by those who are trying to get back to being amazing people. But know that doesn't change who you are. God is greater than our words, and he is the one who gives life. And you will be honored one day because of the love that you've shown, even when it's at a sacrifice of being hurt. So, speaking of waiting, and to those of you who don't believe here today, I want to tell you a story as I close. My mom, I've talked about my dad, and I'll talk about him more, but my mom is the ultimate example of someone who speaks words of life. She is the reason why I was kind of motivated to go in the Texas direction, because she's from there, and some of you have kind of met her, some of you haven't. But if she ever comes on campus, there is a wave of just like laughter and smiles and joy wherever she goes. And you would have think that she would have grown up in like the best house and scenario, but that just isn't true. She's been through kinds of abuse that I can't even articulate here. And the Lord has filled her mouth with words to overflowing that give life. And the largest recipient of those words are my dad. Their relationship wasn't good, and yet she held out Jesus to him for years with her words and her deeds. They fought a lot, mostly due to my father choosing to mishandle the fears and dark things that he's given through. He idolized work and made a huge deal out of that at the cost of our family. And there are times when we wish she would have just found another strategy of giving words of life to him, because while we had to wait for his transformation, he said terrible things. I'll be honest with you. There were times where he was in cussing matches with her. He used my sister's insecurities against her, and I didn't know how to handle it. I even wrote a letter to him once just saying, hey, please, imploring with him, pleading with him to find another way. And he called me gay for it. When I talk about words of life and death, I still remember that. I was 12. I'm 34. This isn't just short term. I'm not just talking to you guys about, let's have a better junior high experience. I want to prepare you for investing into others for when they're in their 30s. Words can just have decades of lingering effects. And so the good news is, slowly over the years, Jesus used my mom mostly, me a little bit, to soften my dad's heart in a very from being a very scared and angry man. And it was in his last days before COVID was happening. Everything turned upside down for his business that he let go. And when he let go, all the words that we had longed for him to start saying and hearing started to pour out. The things he said in those last couple months of his life were sentiments of great humility. He's like, mijo, oh man, I've been so afraid. I don't know what the heck I'm afraid of, mijo. You know, I want to go to the doctor, like all this stuff, right? The Lord had been slowly chipping away in his heart through the faithful presence and ministry, mostly of my mom. To the point where, instead of mislabeling my heart for reconciliation with terrible words and slurs, I can remember coming home with my then girlfriend, now wife, Mrs. Ortega, to meet him for the first time, and everything that came out of his mouth was, son, she's the one. Went from taking a shot at my being a man to flipping that 180 degrees and saying, son, you're going to be a great husband, and this is the one. I wish more than anything that he could share the same words of life and same infectious joy with my baby that's coming in a couple weeks. But the beautiful part of it, and for as sad about that as I am, because of the words of life that my mom got to hold out and preach to my dad, I know where he is now. And I'm going to do everything in my power, obviously, to hold out the gospel to my child so that one day my dad can meet my son or my daughter and say similar things. I say that this is to the non-Christian because, I mean, I don't know what the non-Christian wants to hear in life. I don't know what your mission is here or whatever, what you want. But I'm telling you, whatever it is that you think you want, having a God that can stick with you through decades of hardship and then have it come out the other end with life, there's nothing better. I don't care if you win $1 million. I don't care if you're in the NFL. I don't care. Nothing matches that. You will never find a power and a love until you hear Jesus' words. So may I plead with you today, all of you really, run to Jesus. Only he truly satisfies, and only he will fill your words with life. Would you pray with me? Thank you, Jesus, for these young people, and thank you for the ways, Lord, that they bless us. Their their waves and their hellos in the hallways, the things that they write in their essays, the words of life that they speak to each other are such a joy to us that I can only imagine that what it says in Zephaniah, what it says in your word, as you are singing over them, because you see the godness in them when they have access to those words of life, and how beautiful it is to build one another up, and how that's not, the world wants to make it seem like it's so weak. We come up with these words, Lord, of we're glazing and people, and like that's such a sin. May that be totally wiped out, removed, and not be a foundational element in our culture here. May it be a foundational of our culture here, Lord, that because you modeled such beautiful words of life, to even when you were on the cross, you were taking care of your mother. You were speaking blessing over people, and crazily enough, you were asking for forgiveness for the people who put you on the cross. May that kind of radical kindness and that kind of radical being bigger than ourselves be true of everyone here at CVCS, and may we celebrate those who are walking in step with the Spirit to give words of life. Pray this in Jesus' name. And as I wrap up, this is worship, and we have an extended time of worship in my classroom later today, in the second half of lunch. That is, may I just say, that's a great first step, and now is a great first step, now and in the worship then, to speak words of life. if that's you, right? And if you want to change the way that you speak, come and seek Jesus with us as we sing now and we sing in my class later. Let's stand and sing.
This episode has been a production of the Capistrano Valley Christian Schools Podcast Network. Capistrano Valley Christian Schools is a Christian JK through 12 school in San Juan Capistrano, California. Be sure to check out, subscribe to, and leave a review of this show and the other shows on our network on your podcast player of choice. Doing so supports the school community in a multitude of ways. For more information about the CVCS Podcast Network or any of our other shows, check out cvcs.org or email podcasts@cvcs.org. On behalf of the whole network, this is Mr. Jasper saying thank you again for listening and stay tuned for more.